Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Steelers Game Day postgame show. I'm Mason Sapesky, your host. Before we get into the Steeler game more, I just want to first off comment on the unfortunate passing today of Tim Wakefield. He passed away because of brain cancer at the age of 57. Former Pirates pitcher. Very sad to see him pass, but he's at peace now. So my thoughts and prayers are obviously with him and his family during this tough time for them. I'm very sorry for their loss. So rest in peace, Tim Wakefield. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Anyway, now on to the Pittsburgh Steelers today. They lost 30-6 to the Houston Texans at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. It almost feels laughable saying that. It was so bad. Mina, in all honesty, I don't even know where to start. This was not the kind of show I expected to be filming. The Houston Texans have been a team that have had basically top 5 draft picks each of the prior 3 seasons. Actually, they have a top 5 because, here's how I say, they've had one of the 5 worst records the past 3 years. They destroyed us today. They didn't have half of their offensive line. They still destroyed us today. CJ Stroud was an animal. He absolutely annihilated this defense. And I give him all the credit in the world. He's done a terrific job with that team, so kudos to CJ. Where do we go from here? That's the million-dollar question. This was supposed to be an easy game to win that would put us in control of first place. Instead, next week, we play the Baltimore Ravens. They control first place, and they're going to look to expand that lead for the division even more and take it to us. Our quarterback is hurt. Our offense is a mess. Our offensive play caller is a disaster. I can't even stand to think about him. He is public enemy number 1. He is arguably the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL. And he is arguably the worst offensive coordinator in Steelers history. And I feel sad saying this because he's such a nice guy. I met him once and he was very nice to me. So I hate to say this, but sometimes, unfortunately, being nice doesn't cut it. And obviously, we all know who I'm talking about. We don't need to say his name. It was a mess today, this offensive play calling. It's embarrassing that we're going up against the man who orchestrated one of the best, if not the best defense in football last year in San Francisco. This team made it to the NFC Championship game with not one quarterback hurt, not 2 quarterbacks hurt, or not one but 2. I'm sorry, not one but 2 quarterbacks hurt. And Brock got hurt in the in the NFC Championship game. Yet this 49ers team still found a way to stick with Philly for the vast majority of the game. Because it did not get ugly till late. So, and that was because you didn't have a quarterback that could throw. It was just a disaster at that position for San Francisco that day. But D'Amico Ryan still kept that team in it. I knew from the get-go, or the beginning of this offseason, that this would be a great head coaching candidate. I know in my coaching polls, I had ranked Sean Payne number 1 because it was pretty obvious that Sean Payne was the best available candidate because of his resume. Number 2, I ranked D'Amico Ryans. I love D'Amico Ryans. He is one of the most energetic, inspired, enthusiastic young coaches in this NFL. He's a defensive mastermind. He's everything that a team could win in their head coach. I give him all the credit in the world for what he's done in Houston. He has an amazing offensive coordinator, Bobby Slovic. Amazing defensive coordinator. They took the San Francisco system down to Aids-town, and it's working. Last year, I remember watching C.J. Stroud when they played Penn State. It was the Ohio State-Penn State game. Penn State hung in there with Ohio State for the longest time. Ohio State ended up winning the game like 44-41, something like that. Last year, I watched Ohio State lose to Michigan in Columbus. Do you know who did not look very good in both those games? C.J. Stroud. He struggled at times. He did not impress me. Except for the Peach Bowl last year. College football. Sorry, I'm getting tired. College football playoff semifinal. This quarterback did not impress me. I ranked him as my third best quarterback this draft process, behind Young and Levis. I was so wrong on him. Out of all the rookie quarterbacks, I would rank him right now second, only behind Anthony Richardson, because I believe what Anthony Richardson is doing is impressive, and I give him a lot of credit. And plus Richardson, although he did leave for a concussion, but still Richardson beat Stroud in Stroud's home building. So I still would probably have to put Richardson number one, but Stroud's a close two. Bobby Slovic, and give all the credit to him, he has made this quarterback good. D'Amico Ryans, he's made this team more inspired. And a family friend, he was just telling us about, like, during the game, how they double-teamed TJ Watt. That just shows you how intelligent and how awesome and amazing the San Francisco offensive system works. And Shanahan people are. And you can make the argument and say San Francisco hasn't won a Super Bowl under them. You are right, San Francisco hasn't won a Super Bowl under them. They did almost win that one against the Chiefs, but they let it slip away. And they've lost the last two NFC championships to the Rams and Eagles. But put it in perspective. One of those teams won the Super Bowl. The other came awfully close. The Shanahan system is the best system in the NFL right now when it comes to offenses. And you could say Andy Reid does it good. And yes, Andy Reid does it very good. And Brian Daboll also does it very good. However, I think Shanahan's system is better. I just do. Like I said, C.J. Stroud was not, like, other than that Pizza Bowl, I wasn't very impressed by him. He was not very exciting. He did not have a lot of energy. You put him in the Shanahan system, done nothing but great things. They say, and this was true last year because of Brock Purdy, the Shanahan system works. It makes any quarterback look good, and it does. It turned C.J. Stroud around. And I remember it was a playoff game. San Francisco was playing Dallas. The one, I think it was Jim Nantz. He said, or CBS announcer or Jim Nantz, I forget which one it was. They said, the word you can describe this 49ers team under Kyle Shanahan is innovative. That's the key to winning football games. You have to make it easy on your players, but hard on the opponents. That's what Houston did today, and that's why Houston beat us. It's a shame when the opposing defense knows what play is going to be ran. And I read or heard somewhere a Cincinnati player last year told somebody on the Steelers offense, we know what play you're running. That's pathetic. Why is the offensive design so bland? It comes back to certain people in the organization, and I am not going to say names. I'm not going to pick out anybody. I am not going to be critical of this team because this team was impressive the past 2 weeks. There's always typically one bad loss every year. I hope this is it. Because if we're going to see more bad losses, then I don't know what the point is. I was one of the few that said this is a 9-8 team. And I totally believe it. You got to do something. The good thing is, Coach Tomlin said there are significant changes coming to the offense this week. I hate to say this, but if they don't fire the guy, or if they don't part ways with the guy sitting in the press box, calling the plays, I don't know what the heck significant changes would work. You're likely going to roll out Mitch Trubisky as your quarterback next week. Look what happened when the team we play next week faced a backup quarterback today. We're going to go up to Cleveland now. We're going to leave Houston, and we're going to go up to Cleveland for Ravens-Browns. Now we'll recap this game more in detail on my Tuesday episode of NFL Week 4 recaps. We'll get more into that, but I just want to get into this a bit because it's our opponent next week. Deshaun did not play for the Cleveland Browns. Durain Thompson-Robinson did. And don't get me wrong, he's a good quarterback, Durain. It's just he's young and he was placed in right before game time. But the final score was 27-3 Baltimore. And that's a backup quarterback. Next week, we're going to start our backup quarterback, most likely in Mitch Trubisky, because of Kenny's injury. It's not going to be pretty. I hate to say this. It is not going to be pretty. So I don't know where to go from here. This game was pathetic, to say the least. The same things are said after every single loss. And I'm not going to continue to repeat them. I just want to say straight up a couple things. This was a bad loss. The team is home. The memories of this game are behind us. It's time to move on. It's time to play harder. It's time to get ready for Baltimore. It's time to put it behind us. I'm not going to continue to sit on here and critique Matt Canada, critique Mike Tomlin, critique Kenny Pickett, critique this O-line, critique the D-line, critique anybody in this organization. Because no matter what I say, no matter what I do, nothing's going to change. I could go out there tomorrow, and I hate to say this because it's probably rather ignorant that I say this. I could go out there tomorrow, find a cure for cancer, and save our country. And they still would not listen to what I would do. Therefore, it's best off for me to keep my mouth shut and to let them make the decisions. Because the more I think about it, the more I just rail on here about this team, the more they're going to continue the status quo. There is nothing that is going to change within this organization. Don't listen to what anybody has to say. They're not going to listen to me. And I'm not being selfish. I'm not being stubborn by any means. I've already accepted the fact, like I've said 500 times on this show just in the past 2 minutes, they are not going to listen to me. They are not going to listen to what any fan has to say. They are going to do what they think is best for the organization. And I don't blame them for that. However, we as the fans, I think, have a point. If Cincinnati players are saying, we know what you're going to call on offense, then maybe it is time for something else. Again, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. This was one bad loss. We're going to see how the team responds next week when the Ravens come to town. And then we'll go from there. This team will win 9 games this year. There's no doubt in my mind this is a 9-win team. However, the ways they do it will be interesting. And what happens after January the 7th or 14th or whatever happens, whenever the last play is snapped happens, it'll be interesting to see for sure. So, moving on now after that debacle, because I don't really want to talk about that. That was terrible. So we're not going to talk about that much more. We're going to move on instead to our last part of the show, which is looking ahead to next week's contest. Next week, the Baltimore Ravens come to town at Sunday, October 8th, 1 o'clock p.m. at Acrisure Stadium. The division-leading Ravens are coming in, and they bring talent, that's for sure. As I said, they already won 27-3 in Cleveland this week. Big road win for them. They are now 2-0 in division road games, and they're looking to complete that sweep on Sunday against the Steelers and improve to 3-0 in division road games this year, and that would be huge for them. And plus, they still haven't played a single division team yet at home. They have Cleveland week 10, Cincinnati week 11, and then us to end the season. So if Baltimore can win next week, that would be big for them. They are bringing in playmakers in Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. And then they have some talent too on the defensive side. Obviously, they have 2 OCs that just recently came from the college level. Baltimore last year changed defensive coordinators. They hired Mac McDonald, I think his name is. He was the defensive coordinator at Michigan under Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh's brother. But John snatched him away from his brother Jim, brought him to Baltimore. So Mike McDonald is in Baltimore with them. And also they snatched away national champion offensive coordinator Todd Monken from the Georgia Bulldogs. He's their OC now, and it's worked out pretty well for them. I would expect something similar to happen to Penn State's Manny Diaz, who has done an amazing job with Penn State. I expect him to be an NFL DC next year, if not a college head coach, because he's done great things with Penn State. Virginia Tech's offensive coordinator, I think, is another really prime candidate for a high-up position, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. I think he did a great job last night, unfortunately, against my Pitt Panthers. So those are 2 names that I really like, and I think they should be capable of NFL coordinator positions. So keep an eye out for them. I really like the Ravens model, what they did here. It'll be interesting to see what John Harbaugh brings forth next week with his Ravens. So yeah, the team is now home from Houston. Time to put that bad loss behind us and move forward and prep for the Baltimore Ravens, who come in next Sunday, 1 o'clock on CBS. And we'll be with you for the Steelers Game Day pregame show before the game and the Steelers Game Day postgame show after the game. Keep an eye out for some more interesting videos. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Have a good night. Take care. Stay safe. Have a good week. And as always, peace. See you next week.